summed up this equation that if you have two lines that intersect inside a circle, the angle that's formed by that intersection is equal to 1/2 the sum of the intercepted arcs. Okay, so now we're not dealing with an inscribed angle, we're just dealing with an angle. Any angle formed by two lines that intersect inside a circle. So those two lines are going to form intercepted arcs. So that would be arc X on the left and arc Y on the right. And if we want to know what the measure of this angle is, angle 1, we take the measure of the two arcs, X and Y, and divide them by 2. So you can either write it as 1/2 X plus Y, or the sum divided by 2, whichever way you feel is easier. Personal preference. We also have another theorem which says if you have two tangents, actually they don't even have to be tangents. If you have two lines that intersect outside a circle, the measure of that angle is 1/2 the difference of the measures of the intercepted arcs.
You said outside the circle?
Yeah, so you see angle 1. Angle 1 here is outside the circle. Here it's formed by two lines that both go through the circle. Here it's formed by a tangent and a line that goes through the circle. Here it's formed by two tangents. So you can see it doesn't matter what the two lines, where the two lines go. You take the two arc measures and you subtract the smaller one from the bigger one. Always have what? Yeah. Or they'll give you the angle in one of the arcs and you'll have to solve for the second arc. But once you write down, once you have the formula, you just plug in what you have and solve for what you don't, which is what I suspect you're going to be doing. Alright, I want to go back for a second because this line has a special name, and I want, in case you see that name in the course of your travel for the rest of this class, you'll at least know what they're talking about. This line that goes through the circle is called a secant.
Dude, the dude who was helping me yesterday that goes to SMA, he said, did you learn about secants? And I was like, I've never heard that.
Okay, so now you know, now you know. So there's three different possibilities. Possibility, if this is A and this is B, the line, this whole thing, if you're talking about the line, you would say that AB is a secant line. Now, if it goes in one direction only, if we said AB, that's called a secant ray. Because remember, a ray is a line that goes only in one direction. It starts out at a finite point and continues on indefinitely. And then finally, if you go just from A to B, that is called a secant segment. We're going to get through this Tuesday, one way or the other. Tuesday we're going to be done. All right.
We should do something fun. Let's play a game that
All right.
Do they have a geometry nation?
No. Okay, so now we have these are actually two chords. But again, they're not inscribed angles. They're just inside the circle. So again, if they're not inscribed angles and they're just inside the circle, how do we find the measure of the angle?
Arc by two.
Add the two arcs together, 90 plus 46, and divide by 2.
It's if there's no y. It's like you can't use the formula x plus y if there's no y.
Well, x and y refer to arcs.
Oh,
So it's the measure of the arcs divided by 2. So don't get hung up on the letters. Okay. All right. So this is pretty simple. I would think you'd agree.
Yes.
All right. So let's change the problem. By multiplying both sides by 2. So what happens is if I multiply both sides from 2, that gets rid of the fraction on this side, and it gives me that 40 is equal to 95 minus z. Now I'm going to subtract 95 from both sides. I get negative 55 here and negative z here. So of course if negative z is equal to negative 55, positive z is going to equal positive 55. Now, you might be thinking, well, what if I do z minus 95? Well, if I do z minus 95 is equal to 40. Right? Z minus 95. So you are going to get a different answer. Then you get 135, which we know is not right. Oh, wait a second. You can see that z is smaller than 95. That this arc here is smaller than this arc here. So you just have to sort of recognize that it's going to be 95 minus z and not z minus 95. Okay?